It's once again time for an annual tradition after the draft where we take a look at the teams that we feel did the best and the teams that didn't do so well. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the teams that I feel are the winners and losers of the 2025 NHL draft, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the 2025 NHL draft results, and we're going to analyze the teams that I feel did the best and some of the teams that, we're technically going to classify them as the losers of the draft here, but I'm not really sure that there's too many teams that we can say did like absolutely horrendous or horrible or anything of that nature, but there's certainly teams that did better than others. I want to focus more on the teams that I thought did really well. And then we're going to talk about a few teams afterwards that I just thought was maybe a little bit underwhelming and maybe just could have done it a little bit better. Maybe took some players higher than they should have, that type of thing. And we'll kind of get started here. So for me, the biggest winners of the day, and this was not just because they had the first overall pick, but because of everything that they've done as a whole, the New York Islanders. I mean, for when you're picking first overall, in my opinion, depending on the draft class, your biggest thing is just not to mess it up. And they didn't. They took the right player. They took Matthew Shea, who projects to be a franchise-altering defenseman. I think it's early to call him generational or anything like that. I'm not sure he's going to be that, but he has glimpses of what could become something comparable to a Makar or a Hughes or some of the top D in the game. And it could be like a major game changer for the Islanders. Great person off the ice. Great, character in this kid. The things he's already been through in his life, he's mature beyond his years. I think could be a future captain of this franchise, but it doesn't stop there. Of course, we saw them make a big trade earlier in the day before the draft started with the Montreal Canadiens trading their top current defenseman, right shot D Noah Dobson, to the Montreal Canadiens, and part of that return was a pair of first-round picks. We knew the Habs had back-to-back picks, 16 and 17. Both were included in this trade along with Emil Heineman. Obviously, the Islanders' goal here was to try to use those picks to make a trade with some of the teams that were higher up. They wanted to get their hands on Long Island native James Haggins as their second choice. Unfortunately, that did not work out for new GM Matthew Darche. He did attempt to trade with the Utah at the 4 spot, Nashville at the 5 spot, Philly at the 6 spot, and Boston at the 7 spot. Could not work out deals with any of those teams that made sense for those clubs to pull the trigger. So they end up hanging on to those picks, and they get William Eklund and Keyshawn Aitchison. I mean, to be honest, I think they're kind of lucky to get those players where they did. I thought both guys could have gone higher. Eklund was probably fair to say one of the players that kind of slid down a bit, and I thought they did really, really well. And to add these 3 players with all 3 first-round picks, it's probably going to be a deeper draft class instead of having Schaefer and Haggins. I mean, I do have a few minor concerns over Haggins. Looks like a really good player, but, I'm not real sure that he's going to be a first-line, top point, top 10 scorer, anything like that in the NHL. Maybe he will be, but to me, I just think Schaefer's the right pick for first overall. Eklund and Aitchison, to me, are, I would call fairly safe bets to not only make the NHL, but have a shot at being an impactful player. So, all in all, it would have been a good story to see them get Haggins. I thought they did extremely well. I thought they also took Prokhorov later in the draft. I thought he has a chance to be a decent middle 6 player. Burke Hood, late round goalie, looks decent as well. All in all, I thought the New York Islanders and new GM Matthew Darche just had an incredibly good day. Another team I thought did really well for the most part was the Philadelphia Flyers, taking Porter Martone with a 6th overall pick. Obviously, there was some talk that they were involved with talks with the Islanders, that they wanted to get Martone. He was their guy. I think it was a great selection at that spot. Taking Jack Nesbitt at 12 was probably a little bit high for a team that had a lot of picks. I think they could have got this player a little bit later, but I think they really like this kid, and they see him as being a number 2 center down the road, like a second-line player. So clearly the Flyers are really high on him, a little higher than a lot of people were, but, as much as they could have got him a little bit later, There's still value there. They get Carter Miko, Matthew Gard, Dane Van Shaggy. Also, all have decent potential as well. Overall, I think the whole Flyers draft class as a whole is pretty good. Like I said, Nesbitt was taken a little bit high, but either way, they left that draft with some pretty good talent and potential for the future. Another team that, again, don't mess it up type of deal, San Jose. Michael Misa with the second overall pick, I think was a great choice. Really high-end, tremendous talent. At some point was expected to maybe even go first overall. Didn't quite get there this year. Matthew Schaefer ended up passing him for that title. But Misa, like I said, since he's been about even 14, 15 years old, has been viewed upon as being a potential first overall pick in this draft class. They did also take goaltender Joshua Ravensbergen, who many feel is the best goaltender in this class. He was the highest ranked by some. Now, there's some that disagree with that and think that maybe he's not going to be a starting goaltender, but a lot of people do feel he's got starting goaltender potential. So to grab him with another first-round pick was certainly, I guess, if the projections are accurate, it could be a really good pick here. Obviously, they took Simon Wang, who's a huge project, but could have a huge outcome as well. Colin McKinney, decent two-way centerman as well. Overall, I like the Sharks draft class. I don't mind they took a swing with Wang. Where they took him, and considering how many prospects they've added to their pool here in the last couple of years. And McKinney, I think later on, was a good pick as well. So all in all, I think the San Jose Sharks also had a really good day. The Utah Mammoth, their first draft with the Mammoth name, had a really good day as well. I don't think they could go wrong taking Caleb Desnoyers, number 4, a player that I'm super high on and one of my absolute favorites in this draft class. Of course, I've seen him play the most as well, given his proximity to where I live. With the Moncton Wildcats, obviously, a team I get to watch a lot more. But Desnoyers had a tremendous year. This kid he's just a winner. And to me, he projects to be a really good top 6 two-way center. He may end up being more of a number 2 center, but I think if he is, he'll be one of the better number 2 centers. The playmaking ability, the compete level, just a complete 200, very mature game, and his age is tremendous. I just really think this kid has the it factor. To me, there's no doubt he's going to be an NHLer. It's just a matter of how high that ceiling is. But could I see him being, a consistent 75, 85 point player with really good defensive metrics and get himself into a Selke conversation someday? That would not surprise me in the least. He's a different kind of player to me than what the Utahs already have with their young talent. You just can't go wrong. Pick with Max Pasenica, a great pick there. Yegor Borikov, all prospects as well. Stephen Hawks, another player that to me, they all have potential to make it. Like, these are all pretty good value picks. They all seem to be slotted pretty well with where they were taken. Except with the 4th overall pick, they didn't mess it up. So to me, I think Utah overall had a pretty good day. The Seattle Kraken, I thought, were pretty good as well. Taking Jake O'Brien. Obviously, to me, he has potential to be a real high-end centerman in the NHL. So that's something that they really need in Seattle. So it should be a tremendous pick for them. They took Blake Fiddler later on, big mobile right shot defenseman. Some people have a few questions about his hockey IQ and decision making, but overall, like I said, he's a son of an NHLer and Vern Fiddler, so that he's been around the game his whole life. Obviously, good DNA, so to speak. Good athlete, just big mobile defenseman. I think some of the things that are questionable about his game can be improved and taught with good coaching. So to me, it's a good pick. Right-hand defensemen are at a premium in the league right now, and to get the guys that are big, mobile, strong, and tough, it's just a more rare set of skill sets right now. So the fact that they took a chance on Fiddler when they did is tremendous. I honestly thought he was going to go towards the later part of the first round, so to get him when they did, to me, was a good pickup. Another team I thought had a good day was the Boston Bruins. Obviously, getting James Haggins where they did at the number 7 pick, I thought you could maybe argue it's a bit of a steal. Obviously, they chose not to make any trades with the Islanders, who were definitely pushing to try to do so. Obviously, he has ties to the Boston area, being a Boston College player. Clearly the Bruins have never picked this high in a long time. So to get a player like that fall to them in the draft. Now, with Hagens, like some people, and myself included, didn't really think he was going to be a top 3 or 4 player. But to get him at 7, I think is a tremendous value. I think the Bruins did the right thing here, taking this player, and he has potential to really be a future number 1C here. I mean, I hope for their sake that it works out that way. But watching him play, just how he moves around the ice, he's so smart, great vision. He really has a ton of potential. I mean, a little bit smaller, but sometimes that doesn't always matter. So to me, I think they did the right thing taking him here. Obviously, their next pick, William Moore, also a really solid pick as well. Another forward from the U.S. program, has a lot of potential. Scouts really like this guy. Think he has potential to be a solid mid-6 centerman as well. So really, they leave here with Hagens and Moore and a few other guys, but like these two highlight this class and could be 2 centermen for their future that could be really big roles. Another couple teams I thought did really well, one being Montreal. Montreal, I'm going to give them credit not only for their picks, but more so for the trade. Because, I mean, to me, having a good draft is not always making all your selections. It's how you utilize your assets and your currency here. And I thought Montreal did a tremendous job. I thought for giving up the 16th to 17th picks to get Dobson along with Emil Heineman was a great pickup for them. If you're giving away a top 10 pick, that's a different story. But what these picks would have been valued at, in all honesty, I thought they get themselves a young right-hand defenseman who they then signed to an 8-year deal, who wants to be there, who has got a history of putting up 70-plus points. He did a down year last year. I just thought they did a tremendous job making those draft picks turn into a solid young NHL player. Yes, he's got work to do to make his defensive game better, like a lot of guys do at that age, but you know what? He's got so much potential that it was a really good pickup. They also ended up getting Alexander Zarowski as well. To me, he looks like a real good pick. LJ Mooney at 113 is another one that I really like. I mean, he's a smaller player. Like, he's Cole Caulfield small, but the tenacity, the compete level is just off the charts. He's just a dog on a bone. I know he was listening to Colby Armstrong on the draft day talk about Mooney, a player that he's seen a lot in person from where he grew up and where he's playing. And, just watching the highlights and listening to what people have to say about this kid, he just looks like a real guy you want to take a chance on. Like, when guys want it that bad and they have that kind of compete level and they're smaller but they're playing physical and giving you everything they've got, and they do have the skill to put up some good offensive numbers to boot, you're players you want to take a chance on. So like I said, I don't think he's going to have Cole Caulfield potential, but he's kind of, similar size in the fact that he's going to be having some odds against him like Cole and some of the other smaller players had. But when you work that hard and have that kind of skill set, you have a potential to overcome it. Montreal also took 2 goalies with their draft class as well. Decent picks there. Obviously, when you have guys like Montembeault and Fowler and there's other guys in your system, you can take a chance and pick a new couple goalies that are going to be 4, 5, 6 years out in your system, because you're hoping that with what you already have in your organization that you're not going to be hard pressed for anything like that in the next little bit. Another team I thought also had a pretty good day was the Ottawa Senators. Again, not only for their picks, but for how they use some of their picks to turn into NHL players. Obviously, I really liked the Logan Hensler pick where they did. They had the 21st overall pick. They made a trade. They moved back a couple spots, and they still get the guy they wanted. They get Hensler at 23 instead of 21. And with that, they picked up an extra 3rd rounder. And Hensler, to me, he's just a guy that, to me, could be your, they got Artem Zub and Nick Jensen on the right side right now. They're not, super young. Jensen's in his mid-30s. Zub's, approaching 30-ish, right? So, in the next 4 or 5 years, obviously, Zub's going to be gone. Jensen could be gone as much as 1 year. They're going to need some more solid right-hand D in the next couple of years. And, Hensler is just one of those guys that Might not seem like a sexy pick, but he does a lot of the little things right, gets out of his zone well, solid defensively, has potential to be probably like a second pair shutdown guy. Decent offensive skills. He's not going to wow you with those, but just he's what they need. And at that level of the draft, you can certainly see who's available. And to me, it was a great choice. And then they take the extra pick they get from moving back, trade with LA for that pick and a sixth rounder next year for Jordan Spence. I thought that was an absolute steal. I thought LA gave up Spence for way too little. A player that they've kind of fallen out of favor with, if you will. He wanted more opportunity, wanted a trade. He goes to Ottawa where they wanted insurance for Nick Jensen, who's recovering from a big surgery. He's a $1.5 million player. He's young, controllable asset, so that if he continues playing like he did in LA, they could turn him into Jensen's replacement in a year's time when his contract is up. To me, this was a no-brainer for Ottawa. It was a fleecing, if you will, and I just really liked the trade. So I like how they used their assets. But on top of that, I thought the Sens also made some interesting picks. I know not everybody loves the Blake Vanek pick, but he's a younger player in the class. He comes another son of an NHL player in Thomas Vanek, who had a heck of a career. Some of the same issues you saw with his dad, you kind of see with him as well. But look at how much his father overcame it and had a long, successful career. So considering where they're at with everything and where they took him, I do not mind the Vanek pick at all. The goaltender they took, Lucas Beckman, I think had a solid year in the Quebec League. Looks like a real good goalie prospect. Bruno Witzon is another solid player who I think has potential to make it down the road. Another bit of an overager, late bloomer, if you will. But just some good quality picks here. Some people might view them a little bit risky, but I really don't. I think there's some good potential here. I wouldn't be shocked if 3, 4, 5 years down the road we look at this draft class for the Sens and they have not only Hensler and then you get Spence who came over via trade with one of those picks. And really, even if at least one of those other guys make it, and then you get Beckman who could be a longer term goalie project since they take so long to develop. I think it has potential. It has real potential. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single team here because I could go on all day. And I don't want this video to be an hour long. There's a lot of teams that I think did okay. And really, these are the teams I feel maybe did, some of the best. There's other teams that did good too that I haven't even gotten into. But these are some of my more ones that stick out to me. Now, as far as some teams that I thought didn't have a good day, we're going to look at a few of them, and some of them it's because they didn't have a lot of picks. But there are obviously teams that are in win-now mode and have traded them a lot, like Vegas. I don't think Vegas had a great day at the draft or a great weekend. I mean, the Jacob Inns-Wozniak pick was a decent selection for where they picked. They got Matteo Nobert. There's not much here, I don't think, in their class that just shows any high-end potential. They didn't have a lot of picks. The picks they made were okay, but just nothing jumps out as being, this was a really good one, exceptional job, or nothing like that. I thought Columbus has this history of just kind of doing some weird stuff. I like their first pick, Jackson Smith. I thought was well-placed, excellent pick. He has high likelihood of playing NHL games as the top 4D. So I like the Smith pick. The Pyotr Andrenev goaltender pick at number 20, I thought was way too high. They had another pick that they could have probably gotten him in the third round. He was ranked by most places as 60 to 70th best prospect. I don't know. To me, based on the goal, I'm not really sure that any of those goalies were completely sold on being first rounder. Even Ravensburger, I thought could have been a second rounder. This guy, I think, could have been a third rounder. I just think they could have put that 20th overall pick to better use. There's other talented players on the board that I think could have had more impact early on. So I wasn't a real fan of that. They could have went with Colin Potter or Zonin or Blake Fiddler or even Hensler, who I said went to Ottawa. Zurovsky even that went to Montreal in the second round would have been a better pick, I think. So, just underwhelming for me with Columbus and some weird stuff. The Rangers didn't have a ton of picks. First pick they take is Malcolm Spence at 43. Malcolm Spence did not have a great year, especially the second half of the season. To me, projects as a bottom six forward. There's just nothing in the Rangers draft class to me that jumps out and goes, oh, wow, they got him. That's a steal. Or he's going to be a great player down the road. I think it's just like, you know what? It's okay. Malcolm Spence has time to turn things around. Maybe he works out to be a good, hardworking bottom sixer. We'll see. Same thing with the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's just nothing in that draft class that sticks out as going, wow, like they get some good picks there. There's just nothing that really projects of being very likely to make an NHL and be an NHL player. Ethan Zada, maybe second round pick. That one was okay. That's an all right pick there, but the rest I'm not sure. Pittsburgh was another team. Lots of picks, and overall the draft class looks okay. Like I said, I'm not saying any of these teams did absolutely horrible or anything of that nature, but the way the Pens used their picks were a little weird. Like using Ben Kindle at 11. I like Ben Kindle. From what I've seen of him, he looks like a really interesting prospect. But I mean, from where I did my mock drafts where I thought he would go, I thought he'd be like in the bottom half of the first round, probably in that 25 to 30 range, and they'd take him at 11. They had enough picks that I think they could have got him at a later selection. So again, a good player, but way too high. They take Bill Zonin. That one's not too bad. That pick, is a really hard worker. So I think Zonin has potential. I like that pick where it's slotted better than the Kindle pick. I take Will Horkoff again, a player of a his dad's an NHL player, Sean Horkoff, had a great career, current NHL executive, hard worker, but to me it looks like a project, and at best is a bottom six forward. Again, I thought he was taken too high. Peyton Kettles, they move up early in the second round. I just thought again too high. Most places had him ranked about 20 to 30 picks lower than what they've taken him. So it's not like their players that they took are horrible. I don't think that. I just think in most cases, outside of maybe Zonin, like with Kindle, Horkoff, Kettles especially, they could have all been taken with later picks. I just don't know that the high-end upside, considering how many picks they had and where they're at with rebuilding and trying to restock the cupboard, I just don't love the job that Kyle Dubas and the Penguins did with these selections. The Avalanche are another team I'm putting in this category too. Again, they didn't have a lot of picks because they've been in win-now mode, so I can't fault them for that. But 3 picks, Francesco Del Leche, that one's okay. Linus Funk, round 4, it's okay. Like it's there's nothing horrible here with these players. It's just nothing sticking out as going, wow, that's a great job. Toronto, another team that's moved a lot of picks because they're trying to win. Tinas Luke Cobbler at 64, the first pick of the draft. I mean, it's okay, but a very raw, lanky project of a prospect, I think. So, it's to have your first pick in the draft. I mean, even though when you're picking later like that, it's a little more challenging. But for your first pick to be a major project that I think has a low chance of hitting, just, I don't know, a little underwhelming. A lot of places had this player ranked anywhere from like 120 to 200 something, and he goes at 64. So, Tyler Hopkins again for the third round pick was an okay selection. Projects to probably be a third or fourth center. So I mean, it took some other kids from the OHL, bunch of Ontario kids that are Leaf fans, but there's just not much there that really to me sticks out and projects to be high likelihood of making it to the NHL. At best, it might get a bottom 6 forward or something, or 2 maybe out of this, and that's kind of it. Like I said, it's not horrible. I mean, with what they had for picks, it was okay, but definitely, low likelihood of some of these picks hitting. So, like I said, I can't really give anybody an F or even a D. For some of these teams, I'd classify technically we're calling them winners and losers, but even the teams that didn't do as great probably deserve like at least a grade of like a CC minus. There's nothing too egregious here that really sticks out as being horrible. I just think there's 6 to 8 teams that really stood out to me, and to me I thought did the best. But I mean, like I said, there's other teams that I think you can argue as well did good. I just like these ones for me a little bit better. But again, I don't claim to be a prospect guru. I watch as much junior hockey as I can, take in a lot of highlights. I do a lot of research through what other people who are much more knowledgeable than I on the topic. Obviously listen to Bob McKenzie when he puts out those rankings. Look at, I listen to Craig Button a lot. Obviously read, Central Scouting's reports. There's a bunch of other draft gurus that put out a lot of reports that I follow along. Like I probably get resources here on these prospects from about 6 or 7 different places that have their opinions, and then on top of that, do some highlight watching, and plus, I take in as many junior games as I can, but it's challenging trying to keep up with all 32 NHL teams and then be more of a guru on the prospects too. So, with my knowledge of it, this is what I think. So let me know what you think down in the comments. If you feel differently, that's totally fine. Just let me know what you think. We can talk about it, maturely in the comments and see, as a community here, what everybody thinks of the teams that did the best and some of the teams that didn't do so well, and maybe get a lower grade for their efforts here. So we'll discuss that in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.